Anyway, we're going to start with the Bengals because they have the highest win total, tied with the Ravens, actually, and the Browns. Huh, interesting. The AFC North is all sort of knotted up in terms of expectations for the win totals for those teams, but we will start with the Bengals out of respect for you, Breech. They have an over-under of 9.5. The over is -110. They kind of quietly only went 10-7 last year. You know, I mean, we're treating it as like the Bengals, incredible, Super Bowl run, but yeah, they did only go 10-7. They did win the division, of course. Week 1, the Bengals get the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, you have to kind of consider that like a pretty good starting point, I guess. I don't know. Week 2, at the Cowboys, at the Jets. They have the Dolphins. So they play I believe they play the entire AFC East and the entire NFC South. That is friendly.
Those are the only friendly parts of their schedule. They needed that because
oh my God, they have 4 road games in their first 6 weeks of the season. At Dallas, at the Jets, at Baltimore, at the Saints. They get the Browns on Halloween in Cleveland in prime time. Nobody knows if Deshaun Watson will be playing. Panthers before the bye. And then it gets kind of gnarly after the break with the Titans, Chiefs, Bucks, and Patriots, Bills. Man, they got to stack some wins early, don't they?
All in a row. Yeah, I mean, Brinson isn't like naming off the best opponents. These are
just listing the teams consecutively. Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I've gone through the schedule, obviously, since the day it came out. I've gone through it 7,000 times, and I do not think they get worse than they were last year. I mean, we've talked about, obviously, what they've done this offseason, adding offensive linemen, and they've upgraded definitely on the offensive line, which was their biggest hole. Draft picks, you don't really count so much because you don't know how much they're going to impact. So I do think at worst, they match last year's 10-7 record. My current number for them is 11. So I'm taking the over. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think if you get the Steelers, week 1 is the best week to get the Steelers because even if Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky, whoever the starter is, if they end up being good, they're probably week 1, you're still learning that offense. It's your first time in a regular season game. So if the Steelers are working out kinks, that's when you're doing it, is week 1, week 2, week 3. So I do like that they're getting the Steelers there. The Cowboys game could get crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. So that one could go either way. The Jets game I like having in week 3. Like, look, if we know there is one team in the NFL that is not going to overlook the Jets this year, it is the Cincinnati Bengals.
The Bengals. Yeah, that's right.
So, I don't expect them to go into MetLife Stadium and fall flat on their face again. That was a game they probably should have won. So they will not be overlooking the Jets. And then, obviously, you get the Dolphins in prime time. So I will be surprised if they don't start the season 3-1. Maybe it's 4-0. I had them at
6-3 at the bye.
Okay. I could absolutely
with losses at Baltimore, at New Orleans, and at Dallas.
I could see that.
And they could win. I mean, they took care of Baltimore last year.
I think I would say 7-2. I just feel like you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase going back to Louisiana. They are going to be pumped.
That's a good point.
So I feel like that's just going to be one of those. We're going to put up huge numbers. Burrow and Chase are going to go off for 400 yards apiece.
Might be like an LSU home game if the Saints are terrible by then.
And, New Orleans is loud, but half those fans might be cheering for the Bengals because of all their LSU ties. So,
yeah. I didn't factor that in when I thought about that. Yes. If they go like 5-4 before the bye, they're in deep trouble.
Yes, I agree with that.
I always think you have to be 6-3 at worst case to hit this over on the win total, because it's you come out of the bye and you're at Pittsburgh, at Tennessee, home against KC, home against Cleveland, at Tampa Bay, at New England, home against Buffalo, home against Baltimore. I mean, even if the Bengals are a really good football team, and it's possible that they are, like, what's the best case scenario out of the bye in those 8 games?
Well, I would say the best case scenario is the Steelers end up being an average team. So not great. That feels winnable. The Titans end up being an average team. Yes, they went 12-5, but it feels like Ryan Tannehill's been slightly regressing every year. He's not going to have AJ Brown to throw to, and Derrick Henry.
Plot twist for you, trying to pipe up the Bengals win total.
Well,
now after ripping me for questioning the Titans.
But you have Derrick Henry. He's not also going to have some of his pressure.
I think best case you're splitting those games. Like I don't think you're going 2-0 on the road against Pittsburgh and Tennessee.
I don't know. I just coming out of the bye, 2 road games isn't. I think best case. I look at the groups in groups of 4s and the games. Well, I did when it was 16 games. Coach, I'm going to have to switch that strategy. But I feel like the best case scenario for them is 3-1 out of the bye, and worst case is 1-3. And they have at Steelers, at Titans, Chiefs, Browns.
4-4 is. So you're thinking 4-4 is probably a reasonable expectation after the bye
for the front 8 games, and then you never know with the last game because the Ravens could be out of it, the Bengals could be out of it. One of them could have clinched a wild card berth. You don't know how much they have to play for at that point.
So in other words, like you basically have them slightly sneaking over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's 10, but probably 11.
Would you bet on the over?
Yes. I have not yet, but I
with incredible conviction.
Well, I was thinking about it. I don't. I don't like betting on the Bengals. I don't like betting on the Bengals. Like the first rule of gambling is don't bet on the team you cheer for.
That's not the first rule of gambling.
Oh, it's my first rule of gambling.
Okay.
Because then you don't want to be mad at the team for losing money. It adds. You're already defeated because they lost. You don't want to pile on top of that by losing money too.
Yeah, that's why you bet against the Bengals.
I mean, you could do that, and then you're happy either way. But I don't like that.
Last year for NC State basketball, worst team against the spread in like 30 years. Just making cash.
Listen to Brinson's sad gambling rules. You should just have a podcast on that.
I'll tell you what's sad is this freaking nerve that's just shooting pain down my leg every 3 seconds. Anywho, I mean, I think I would lean. I think the Bengals numbers is a good one. I wouldn't touch it because, like I said, if you go 5-4 to start and then 4-4, you're a 9-8 team that's probably in the playoff hunt, but also under the 9.5. And I don't think that's an outrageous potential outcome for their season. I think I think I trust Burrow enough where they probably do go over it. But if like the Saints they lost to the Jets last year. So it's not inconceivable they lose to New Orleans or Atlanta,
Right.
I mean, the Bills lost to the Jaguars last year. I'm not saying it's a Bengals thing. It's just
no, right. There's crazy losses every NFL season, and those are the ones that you have to account for.